Thank you, Andrea. And thank you to our distinguished panelists for their contribution. I will now make the transition to the second panel, which deals with a concept which we have addressed so many times in our discussion, is about ESG stewardship. I will invite my colleague Gabriela to invite on her turn the panelists. I would like to tell a few words about Gabriela, although she's again very well known on our professional market. Gabriela is the Dean of Envisia Business School and also the COO of this organization. She is acting as the chair of academic committee of the International Association for Sustainable Economy, and also she is the president of the Banking Commission within International Chamber of Commerce as part of Romanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She is a member of many professional associations. I will name a few: Chartered Institute for Security and Investments, Association for Romanian Financial and Banking Analysts, and Independent Administrators. So, Gabriela, we were on time with panel 2. Now I switch to you. I give you the floor to welcome the panelists for the second panel. Thank you, Gabi.
Thank you very much, Adriana, and thank you to the previous panelists for the interesting insights. Before starting our panel, I would like to quote Hendrik Van Loon Smith Jr., who is an American banker, author, and educator, and who says, "Now more than ever, the world needs transformational leaders, not to cultivate change for its own sake, but to lead through the inevitable evolutions in business and human society." And now it is my honor to moderate high-caliber experts who represent top financial groups in Romania, Banca Transilvania and BRD Group, Societe Generale, as well as important professional organizations with major impact at the industry level: Romanian Investor Relations Association and Integrity Forum from Cyprus. We will start our panel with a general question addressed to all panelists, and I kindly ask them, before answering to my question, to present themselves. And question to start our panel is, why ESG is climbing the boardroom agenda? Is ESG a buzzword or a real concern for boards? And I kindly ask, let's say, the panelists to respond, and I suggest to ask Luminița to start.
Thank you for having me here. I'm Luminița Aruncan. I am heading the risk area in Banca Transilvania, which currently is the biggest bank in Romania. We are a local bank, and from that perspective, I think that we are proud of having a very good knowledge of the Romanian market. And trying to answer your first question, I would say that in this very complex and diverse world, both aspects should be taken into account. I would like to refer first to ESG being a real concern for boards. I think that ESG should be a real concern for all people on the planet, and that's why we are talking about it. I don't know whether the audience know, but I have learned that this term ESG was first coined in 2005 in a landmark study entitled "Who Cares Wins." And it was a result of an invitation that former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan invited 50 CEOs of major financial institutions to participate in a joint initiative under the auspices of the UN Global Compact. at that time. For a long period of time, the velocity with which this concept was developing in the market was very, very slow. But after 2018, it seems that we have very much improved the speed with which we are moving. For instance, the Financial Times reported that in a 13 years period, starting with May 2005, ESG was mentioned in fewer than 1% of earning calls in the world, while between 2018 and 2021, this term was used in a fifth of the earning calls. From that perspective, I think that the real concern became a buzzword because the noise it creates, the velocity with which we are moving, and more than that, and this comes back to what your previous stakeholder were mentioning, the numerous stakeholders around this topic. And from that perspective, I think that the boards in their capacity at whatever type of company cannot afford to go wrong.
Thank you, Luminița. I pass the floor and the invitation to Flavia. Please, Flavia.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to listen to you, and it's enriching. I'm very happy to be in this afternoon here. Gabi, answering to a question, but first of all, I should introduce myself. I'm General Secretary of BRD, part of Group Societe Generale, an important player in the financial industry in Europe. I'm also part of the board of French Chamber of Commerce in Romania, and I'm also a part of an organization dear to me, Fundația Nouă, which is an important player, I would say, in Romania for creating value for young generation of creators. And it is a link of what we'll say afterwards with this foundation. Of course, in my capacity of General Secretary, I'm in charge of corporate governance of BRD. I'm also taking care of public affairs and sustainability department, and of course, communication and sponsorship that has an important role in relation with the community and our society. So this being said, in this role, I'm really involved in the life of the company. I have to mention that BRD is a listed company, and this is also an important mention because it was said before that after all, sustainability, it is something related to governance, it is something related to transparency, it is something related to report, it is something related to a lot of aspects. This is why I would say for us in BRD, it's an exercise that has started long ago. And this is why I would dare to say we are front runners in this change that in this challenge that represent the digital transformation and the green transformation in this world. In fact, I would say it's challenging for all of us because I like to say we are speaking about a holy triad for us, the companies. Profitability is one word we have to follow. Sustainability is another word that is really in the mind of all of us today. And resilience is also another word that is following these days, all of us. And we have to handle and manage all these three in order to go on. And answering to your question more specifically, Gabi, I was reading recently a World Economic Forum report. It's a survey, in fact. It's Global Risk Report 2023. And in the conclusion, in brief, is that in the next 2 years, we are exposed to different risks, but top 5 are following: cost of living, natural disaster, and extreme events of weather, geoeconomic confrontations, failure to mitigate climate change, and erosion of social cohesion. This is in the next 2 years. But answering again to your question, based on the survey of the World Economic Forum, in the next 10 years, this ranking is changing, and our priority is considered to become exactly this topic of climate change. Because apparently the main risk is failure to mitigate climate change. The second risk is failure of climate change rules adaptation. After that is natural disaster, because it's a link. And we will face apparently a biodiversity loss and the ecosystem collapse that will also involve a sort of large-scale immigration. So these are some risks that are strongly related to sustainability. This is why, as Mrs. Runcan said, it's not about boards that should have a buzz of this sustainability matter. It's a matter of all our stakeholders to take care and invest and be focused on this topic, sustainability, these days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Flavia. So it is clear that ESG is part of the organizational strategy, and it will be part of our community, not only our all the organizations. And now I will kindly ask Mario to say something about this question from his professional perspective.
Thank you, Gabriela, and I hope all of your participants enjoyed today's event, which seems to be quite interesting, touching on very interesting corporate matters like ESG. I'm participating today in my capacity as chairman of the Cyprus Integrity Forum, which is the largest non-governmental organization for promoting transparency and combating corruption in Cyprus. My profession is I'm the Chief Compliance and Corporate Governance Officer of Bank of Cyprus, which is the largest banking institution in Cyprus. And I'm also a member of the advisory board of the International Compliance Association in the UK. So coming to your question, indeed, the ESG is the corporate topic of the day, if I could say it. And it seems like every other day over the last few years, we hear someone talking about ESG. ESG is, if we define it so that all of our participants understand it in full, it is a 3-tiered dimensional objective: the environmental, the economic, and the social dimension, which aim in a single societal goal, which is that of sustainability. The interconnection of these 3 different principles or spheres is a related set of concepts which can form a solid ground from which major decisions and actions can actually be made. Such examples of decisions are, for example, the land use planning, surface water management, building design and construction, and even lawmaking for the stabilization, especially of climatic changes. And the characteristic that segregates this goal, meaning the ESG and the sustainability goal, from any other, is that it aims in meeting the needs of the present generation without limiting the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. So when the concepts contained in these three spheres of sustainability are applied to the real world, then everybody wins at the end of the day. Natural resources are preserved, the environment is protected, the economy isn't harmed, and most importantly, the quality of life of our people is improved and maintained at a good level. I believe this is something as an introduction to this topic, and we can discuss it further on.
Okay, thank you, Mario. Yeah, it is clear and true that ESG is part of our lives now, professional and private as individuals. And I'm very happy that Envisia is here because we provide education and we prepare professional for current and future challenges as regards ESG and as regards specialists who will consult the board members and advise the boards how the trends and how the implementation should go. And now I would like to move further, and I would kindly ask Luminița to tell us, in the same line of our previous discussion, what is the role of a good ESG strategy and what are the tools you find to make it effective?
I think that the ESG strategy represents the best tool for the supervisory board to prove proper engagement and committing. I think it's a great signal to investors, being them shareholders or bondholders, but is also a wonderful tool to monitor implementation and milestones during the way. It also represents, in our opinion, a point of reference for the fiduciary duties to which the board is bound to. However, legal duties may not be enough to ensure compliance. Considering the carrot-stick argument, we also encourage linking short and long-term remuneration packages to ESG targets. We think that reputational and remuneration incentives work best for proper engagement and commitment for the boards.
Thank you very much, Luminița. We will have some conclusions at the end. I'd like to ask to stay in the financial sector industry and to ask Flavia. Although financial health is paramount for the future of the company, neither company exists in isolation, but is part of a community. How do you make sure you are available part of the community, apart from your relationship with customers, stakeholders, and suppliers?
Thank you for the question, Gabi. I would like to start, first of all, just explaining a little bit our ambition in terms of ESG based on the strategy at the level of Societe Generale Group. We are working on 4 ESG pillars defined by the group and implemented all over. One, it's environmental transition. The second one is positive local impact. The third one is culture of responsibility. And the last one is responsible employer. Speaking of environmental transition and the positive local impact, I would just want to mention BRD ambition is to be ranked among the top Romanian sustainable finance banks by 2025. We settled a target for 2025, but it's already overpassed, I would say. So we are in the process to revise this target and to get out with the new figure. So it's amazing, I would say. And this is not about the results of the bank, but it's the appetite of the country related to sustainable finance. I would say I would just remind the fact that BRD was the first bank in Romania market to structure a green bond, a sustainability-linked bond, and a green loan in accordance with green loan principles. So this is our role as a banker to finance, but of course ESG transformation, as I said, means different other pillars, and of course we are taking care to expand the range of our ESG products and services. We are doing right now, we are developing our capacity to identify and measure the impacts and the risk and the reports, because as it was previously said here, the regulation is tough, and the banks are up to me are in forefront of this exercise, and they would trigger the rest. Also, we are supporting, as I said, the cultural change within the organization. And I'm coming back to your question. Of course, we are an important, and we have to be an important actor in communities. It's our role to give something to the community, especially when I'm speaking about all the risks that are around us. And our philosophy here is that we have to contribute, in fact, to the economy of the country, being a leader in supporting important aspects: culture, education, environmental projects in Romania. And for this, with dedication, we are each and every year building on these pillars, because we are considering crucial, tremendous, that Romania has to have educated people, that the culture is the engine that is developing that is helping to transform us, to adapt us, to help everybody to be in this process long described before, to adapt to the great risks and challenges that we are facing. So I will just mention as examples. We have launched in Romania through Fundația Nouă. This is why I mentioned before. Some important initiative. We have launched the platform Scena Nouă, that is one of the most pristine cultural platforms, journalist cultural platforms in Romania. And also a marketplace for young creatives to have a voice, to inspire the others and among themselves. This is something we are really proud of, and I just wanted to mention it. Of course, there are different other aspects related to how we are part of the communities. I would just mention, related to this topic, that we are I would say the initiator of an important event in Romania. Last year, it was the first year we put it in place, Climate Change Summit. Another event that is aiming to be the most important one, with the purpose exactly to gather around, on one hand, professors, teachers, great minds in sustainability, but also companies and authorities, with the purpose that together we are putting question, we are finding solution, and after that we are trying to put in practice. So this is in big line that I would like to really quickly to emphasize what we are doing in communities those days. Thank you.
Thank you, Flavia. So we are seeing now not only the focus on profits, but a major focus of the organization of their impact in the communities and in the society. So I would like to move forward to Mario and to ask him if he considers as adequate the content and overall framework of ESG strategy as applied today across the business world, and if not, what needs to be done. Please, Mario.
Thank you, Gabriela. Well, I mean, the basic challenge in elevating ESG and sustainability as a core strategic goal in any organization is actually whether we consider the real quality of life as a major goal and concern of every single individual. And this is the critical success factor of any ESG strategy. That is whether it will eventually lead to the desired sustainability, or whether it will remain as another ticking of the box process, which is unfortunately the majority of the views and perception in our days, given the fact that primarily the ESG concept and the sustainability concept is quite new. In order for corporations to realize the real value of sustainability, is that they need to appreciate some basic facts of life. And these basic facts of life is that in a poor economy, people experience a poor quality of life. And the same also holds true for a poor environment. In a poor environment, the impacts of quality on quality of life, they're not always easily observable. However, it doesn't take a trained individual to see how things such as polluted stormwater runoff or overdevelopment of floodplains, or even the poor management of our scarce resources can have an effect on our everyday quality of life. There needs to be clear and ongoing building of awareness for corporations to reach that level of understanding, and above all, embed the right culture. And to achieve that, the credentials and attributes of resources need to change. The performance evaluation schemes, for example, in organizations also need to be revised drastically, and the content of our public reporting needs to focus more on societal and environmental achievements and contributions rather than the achievements of crude financial indicators. I mean, consider today's life and today's pragmatics. Which organization that embeds an ESG strategy and follows an ESG strategy has changed the performance evaluation indicators of its employees? Don't they still apply and implement certain KPIs of reaching certain levels of turnovers or certain levels of profitability? Yes, they still do that. And at the same time, these organizations, they are trying to pursue an ESG strategy. Well, the two don't match together unless there's a breach, and this breach can only be applied if at the same time we start introducing these kind of more softer performance evaluation schemes, having KPIs of reaching, let's say, net zero emissions or carbon-free, let's say, products reaching a certain threshold. For example, we can have a KPI of a minimum threshold of 70%, let's say, or 80% of our products to be green compliant. But this, we don't see it happening a lot today. And above all, we need to realize that the cornerstone for the successful implementation of any such changes is just one, and this is the embedding of ethics and business integrity within the corporate culture of the organization. Once the organization thinks and operates with integrity and transparency, then we can get the sense of feeling responsible rather than feeling obliged, like it happens to all other kind of compliance and regulatory obligations, to adhere to the relevant ESG strategy, and eventually sustainability will be achieved. We should never forget that the sustainability, this single societal goal stemming from ESG, it is a political choice. It is not a technical jigsaw. And it's not a question whether we can be sustainable, but rather it's a question of whether we choose to be sustainable. And that choice, if we have such a choice, depends on our own values and principles. So this is the critical success factor we need to consider in order to ensure that we indeed have an effective, sustainable strategy or not.
Thank you, Mario. It seems that indeed business strategies should be, let's say, adjusted in order to be aligned to the ESG challenges and values such as integrity, ethics, transparency to be in the front four of the businesses.
Actually, Gabi, just a small comment, is not the other peripheral strategies that need to be adjusted, but rather the everyday operational indicators and frameworks that need to be aligned and changed drastically if we want to align and actually achieve the ESG goals and targets that we set.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you. We move forward because Daniela is joining us, and I would like to ask her a question on her expertise and representing the Association of Investor Relations. How did the emergence of ESG change the internal structures of major companies in Romania? And if being a listed or not listing a listed company makes a difference? And before answering, Daniela, please say some words about you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation, first of all. So I'm in the capital markets since more than 17 years, and I've been managing the Investor Relations Association in the past 5 years. I set up this with the intention to promote corporate governance principles and also transparency as creating value added for shareholders. At this moment, ARIR has almost 40 members, major listed companies. Some of them are also present in the Today conference, Banca Transilvania and BRD, which joined in the past years. From our point of view, I would say that, listen to what Mario said earlier. Of course, that would be an ideal world. The reality shows that investors were forced, and I mean here institutional investors were forced to report their investments through ESG lenses. This is why companies started to work on that. Making it briefly, if you were not ESG compliant and you were not having data, then some investors could not invest in you at all, and probably this will happen with the banking finance soon. In terms of listed companies, in a couple of years, the mandatory non-financial reporting will be in place. And this will follow, and our latest discussions in the European issuers, it's a European Companies Association of listed companies, is that in 2029, most probably non-listed SMEs will also report according to some standards. So this is imposed by law. When speaking about adjustments in the company, it's not only one person or one department that is handling ESG, but rather the whole management team that embrace that is trained. And then this information has to be, let's say, transposed until the final personnel, because the data should be gathered, some processes should be in place, and of course reporting was put as a first step, but setting objectives in the ESG framework and also having a strategy in the ESG is also very, very important. So from this point of view, Romanian listed companies chose two ways. First way was to work with external consultants, which was, of course, easier to do. Other was to train their personnel and to appoint some internal people responsible creating departments. In any case, some external advice was needed. One was the education part, which also Evisia promoted, and the other one is just working with the external consultants. Of course, it means some extra costs and extra resources for the companies for a greater good, because we are talking about climate change, we are talking about responsibility. And my final remarks would be related to investors and investors' expectations. Of course, imposed by law, but in the end, all are embracing this, that we are all looking on ESG as a reality with more and more sophisticated expertise in place, both in listed companies as in the investors' teams. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. So it seems that not listed company, if they want to be, let's say, to have a good image on the investor and on the financial to the financial institution, they need to apply best practices from the listed companies in order to get access to the capital, to get access to the shareholders, to be well known on the market, and to be seen by the investors and by the finance sector. I'd like to, because we are all focused on financial services sector here, not only in banking, but also in the financial services industry, and you came and exposed good practices from your organizations. I'd like to ask Luminița, how far can we stretch the role of a bank as ESG steward?
If I'm allowed to categorize this question as being a tricky one, I will do it. And I found it tricky because there is so much debate on these topics lately. But banks right now have found themselves in a very interesting role. We are intermediaries for sustainable finance, but we also engage in ESG screening for our customers. This for sure increased the cost of doing business for banks, which of course is going to be reflected in the cost of loans to the customers, but also raises questions on how much can a bank interfere in the sustainable governance of the companies with which it finances. Our opinion right now is that for the time being, banks must offer guidance and support for a sustainable journey for our clients, while avoiding any invasive, I would say, attempts to change the governance of companies. We may constitute an example for our partners, for our clients, but it's not our intention to, let's say, to readjust the strategy of the companies with which we are working. These issues are still only for the shareholders of the companies and not for the creditors to tackle. That's our approach right now. Nevertheless, as I already mentioned, I strongly believe that banks should be in the front of the engagement in the ESG, being examples for partners and for clients in complying with the demands, with the request of the regulatory legal framework. That would be in a nutshell what we think of our roles right now.
Thank you very much. It seems that banking sector and banks are, let's say, playing more and more as advisors for their clients in order to help them to implement the best practices and to be aligned with what the regulations are requiring. And now I'd like, in the same line of questions, I'd like to go further to Flavia and to ask her if there are there any instruments you are using to make sure that your internal objectives are in line with what external stakeholders expect from your organization?
First of all, yes, thank you. First of all, we have to know what the external stakeholders expect from us, and this is why it's important to organize different ways of communication with them. As a listed bank, of course, speaking of our shareholders, it's obvious that we are organizing different ways to get to our shareholders, explain what we are doing, but also we are open to their suggestions. And speaking of this year, for example, we have organized our first digital general assembly, enabling as many as possible shareholders to be present and to interact and to give their opinions. Of course, there are meetings with investors, another important stakeholder, and we are all the time open to their suggestions. But more focused, I would mention also another tool that is used by us and probably by all, not probably, for sure, by all companies that are preparing a sustainability report. That is drafted on the GRI standards. This is why we have organized an analysis process, an impact analysis process, enabled to consult with our all stakeholders and find out what are their interests, what are their needs, and trying to find out how they envisage our role in order to address these needs. And based on this survey, we have identified different opinions and ideas that we incorporated in our strategy, and now it's our turn to go back to our stakeholders and inform where we are with their expectation and continue monitoring these targets. This is another practical example tool of.
It seems that we lost Flavia. Until Flavia is connecting again with us, I'd like to ask Daniela. Daniela, are you still with us? Daniela Sherban. Okay, so
yes.
Okay, Daniela, I would like to ask you, moving from the institutional investor to individual investors, how important is ESG for these individuals?
At this moment, individual investors just follow what companies do. They were not leaders in this area. For them, it's not really crucial at this moment. And as far as we all know, the CO2 and the carbon footprint of individuals is much higher than of the companies. But nevertheless, institutional investors, of course, care more. In the end, it's about all of us. So I would say that the difference comes from the community that they can create. Because individual investors, they don't have a strong voice, each of them. But institutional investors, of course, have an institutional role, have gathered in associations, so they have managed to impose more their feedback. And we know those alliances of many institutional investors towards a greener way of doing investment. But retail investors, they accept it, and they started embracing that and learning about that, because it's also something new. The way that we look at the listed companies, taking in consideration not only financial and not only financial information, but also non-financial information is starting to be different. And always we look at the institutional investors at the way they look at companies, what matters. Intangibles always mattered, reputation, brand, what you promised to investors, these kind of things always matters. But now we also look at the water consumed, energy, and let's say impact in the society.
Thank you, Daniela. It seems that in the end, all type of investors and stakeholders will run to education to be, let's say, aligned with the evolution and with the news required by regulation, and all of us have the responsibility, social responsibility and moral responsibility to contribute to the education and to educate people, even if they are individuals or even if they are institutional players. And Envisia will have an impact at the boardroom, let's say, as regards specialized education. I'd like to end our panel with the request to you to say some words in the end as a conclusion and as a recommendation for our audience. So, Luminița?
I would encourage all the participants to stay close to the topic and try to understand what's behind this very nice ESG name that we are using. And beside of trying to implement these concepts in their organization, I strongly advise them to do whatever they can in their capacity as human beings to do every day a very small step towards this sustainability concept, because if all of us are doing very small steps, for sure we will reach the final goal, which is a very nice one, but a very broad and important one. Thank you.
Thank you, Luminița. Flavia?
Thank you, and sorry again, I just faced a technical problem and for the previous intervention. In my opinion, complementary of what is already said, I would just say for the Romania, we have to stay close, all of us, private companies and especially the companies that are more advanced in this exercise, because we have to be aligned, all of us, in the way we are implementing, in the way we are finding together solution, in the way our information can be comparable, because this is something that will help each and every of the stakeholders in order to invest, in order to support each other. It also, I invite to transparency, because at the end of the day, the G from ESG is about important rules of corporate governance and transparency. I will also invite authorities to be next to each of us, banks, other types of companies from other industries, also individuals. It's an exercise that we have to be done by all of us, and it's not a game. It's something that really concerns all of us and the generation that it's coming. I just hope that together, even with this kind of events, we are a step forward in order to achieve our targets. Because willingness, I think it's all around us, but we need real material and clear movements that should be done by each and every of us. So I hope we'll join to another meetings next time in order to present our achievements, in order to present solution and inspire one to each other. Because again, as I said, it's something that should gather us, not put us apart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Flavia. Daniela?
Well, Flavia said it so nicely. I cannot add much. I would say just that ESG is here to stay, and we cannot ignore it anymore. It's a hard word, but nevertheless, it will be more and more in our lives. And yeah, the power of the community is very important. So we are here as a community, and we are definitely sharing the same values, and we'll put together our efforts to get this through. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. Mario?
Well, a few closing remarks from my side would be that we are all gathered today here to talk about this new fruit, ESG. We gathered together to talk about where we want to go with this new fruit in our plate. And we said what we aspire by putting certain conditions and ticking those boxes. However, I would like to once more emphasize that unless we see our ESG responsibilities as a real responsibilities and not as obligations, what we discuss here today as future goals, these future goals of a better environment and a cleaner climate and a more kind of economic prosperity rather than economic profitability, this will never be achieved. Therefore, we need to embed in our own lives and in our corporate cultures, actually starting from our own homes, the aspect of integrity. If we act and behave with integrity and in our businesses and in our organizations, then eventually sustainability will be a reality. But if we do not, unfortunately, and in the years to come, we shall having such conferences and such gatherings to talk about what we aspire to achieve and end up adding more controls and more boxes to tick in an attempt to attain sustainability. But it will just be an onerous task, and this target will never be achieved. Therefore, let's start with the inner qualities of our lives, embedding business integrity and ethics and in our businesses and organizations, and this will just come very, very easily, this task. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. And I would like to also add that both S and G from ESG have a strong correlation with leadership. This is why we will continue to have an eye on ESG stewardship and leadership, sustainable leadership on the Envisia agenda. And now it's time to give the floor to my colleagues, Adriana and Andrea, to draw the conclusion for all the event.
Thank you, Gabriela, and thank you to all the participants and contributors from your panel. Indeed, we exceeded a little bit the time allocated, but that happened because there were many things discussed and many topics approached. As we went along the panels, I wrote down some remarks, some conclusions, which I would like to share with you now. And these are the following. First of all, sustainability is now embedded in government actions. The OECD accession is a key current endeavor. There are international organizations offering support for ESG gap identification and offering even instruments to overcome these gaps. I like the idea that ESG includes indeed 3 components, but all of them needs to be looked after in perfect interconnectivity, not separate. Looking retrospectively, but in the same time prospectively, ESG is in the heart of governance failure. However, ESG is also the solution from departing, from leaving away the governance failure. I like very much this idea. We should reflect all as a group to overcome the fear to scrutinize compliance. Otherwise, we may end up in doing harm rather than good. So that I found a matter of reflection for all of us. There is a notable disconnect of small and medium enterprises, disconnect from financial markets, particularly regarding on what they need to bring us effort. There is this trap of greenwashing, which constitute indeed a real danger, a real risk. But as the market will grow, will become more mature, the risk will be mitigated. We spoke about concept of integrated governance, meaning that we cannot speak about governance at board level only, but throughout the organization and at the level of each individual. Lack of such integrated governance means that the whole system will fail. And toward this purpose, we all need some guidance, because in order to respond to the numerous issues appeared, actually we need to move in a collective way, not separate. In this context, education will be instrumental at all levels: regulators, big organizations, SMEs, employees, board level. But however, the education alone will not be sufficient, will not be enough. It is the stewardship needed to come in and complete the picture in order to ensure the alignment of various interests from stakeholders. This is a reality. In this context, again, boards will have a tremendous roles and responsibilities in recalibrating those interests for the greater good, and particularly the chair of the board. Therefore, professionalizing the role of the board director, which is also Envisia's endeavor today, become increasingly important and the only way to ensure a quality board practice and directorship. These are my notes, which I wrote down throughout the event. I know Andrea captured potentially some other good topics. So I thank you all, and I would like to invite Andrea to complete my conclusions.
Adriana, it's so complete that, I would not dare imagine that I can further complete it. Just maybe to draw a summary and maybe a call to action, and just to pick some of the key points that I'm taking from this conference. And again, thanks to all our speakers for the passionate conversations, the practical actions that you have implemented. Thanks, Envisia, for co-organizing this event together. Definitely, what I took is that it's still early days. So we are seeing action on all sides, corporations, regulators. And we have been talking about CSR about, some 20 years, I would say. But there is still a disconnect between this ambition and discussion that regulators put out there and the capacity of the markets to offer those informations or that reporting. So for a while, we have to kind of assume that in parallel, we will have real action as well as some greenwashing, because we will need to be educated. And this is why we are here, to encourage people to use the resources of Envisia, resources of ACCA, not least such events like this conference, to use them to further inform themselves. But in the end, you know, after we do the education and the discussion, I think we should work at having the application bit at 80%, like Professor Cacabațea was saying, and not the conversation of strategy setting at 80%, but at 20%, as he was saying, it's best practice. And it should be about everybody, from board to management level, at a very practical level. So I really love the recommendation I heard on this panel, actually, on this latest panel. Why not having employees' annual performance goals reflecting sustainability goals? So not just, you know, financial, sales, traditional ones. And also the fact that regulations should not be tick box exercise. And I think this goes to everything that we do in our lives as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure having you here with us this evening. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you took both the, you know, potential risks, and together we can mitigate them, the learnings, the inspiration as well, and have a very, very good evening. And we hope to see you again with even better news in the near future. Thank you.
Good evening to all. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.